Have you ever left a conversation feeling completely exhausted, even though you barely said anything? Or noticed that after spending time with a certain person, you feel anxious, confused, or inexplicably drained for hours afterward? Here's something most people don't realize. There are individuals who have mastered the dark art of psychological manipulation so well that they can extract your emotional energy without you even noticing it's happening. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal 5 subtle signs that someone in your life is secretly feeding off your energy like a psychological vampire. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll be able to spot these energy thieves immediately. The 5th sign is so disturbing that once you see it, you'll never unsee it. Let's dive in. Before we get into the signs, let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a talented marketing executive who always prided herself on being empathetic and helpful. She had a colleague named Mark who seemed to always need her advice, her time, and her emotional support. At first, Sarah felt good about helping him. She thought she was being a good friend and mentor. But after 6 months, something changed. Sarah started dreading Monday mornings. She felt anxious whenever her phone buzzed, worried it might be Mark with another crisis. She began having trouble sleeping, constantly replaying their conversations in her head. Her own work performance started slipping. Her friends noticed she seemed different, more withdrawn, more tired. What Sarah didn't realize was that she had become the target of psychological energy drainage, a concept deeply rooted in dark psychology. Mark wasn't just seeking help. He was systematically extracting her emotional resources, leaving her depleted while he thrived on her attention and concern. This isn't some mystical concept. This is real psychological manipulation that happens every single day. And today, you are going to learn exactly how to recognize it. Sign 1. The emotional dumping cycle. The first sign someone is draining your energy is what I call the emotional dumping cycle. Here's how it works. This person constantly comes to you with problems, crises, and dramatic stories. But here's the key distinction. They never actually want solutions. They want your emotional reaction. They feed off your concern, your worry, your attempts to help. Let me paint you a picture. You are sitting at your desk, focused on your work, when suddenly your phone lights up. It's them. I need to talk. Everything is falling apart. Your heart rate increases. You drop what you are doing. You give them your full attention, your energy, your emotional investment. You spend 30 minutes, maybe an hour, listening to their problems. You offer thoughtful advice. They seem grateful. They say things like, "You are the only one who understands me," or, "I don't know what I do without you." But here's where the manipulation reveals itself. Nothing ever changes. 2 days later, they are back with the exact same problem or a remarkably similar one. The advice you gave? Ignored. The solutions you proposed? Never implemented. The cycle just repeats, endlessly. This is dark psychology in action. They are not seeking help. They are seeking your energy. Each time you engage, you are giving them a dose of attention, concern, and emotional investment. You are literally feeding their psychological needs while draining your own reserves. The truly sinister part? They've conditioned you to respond. They've trained you to drop everything when they reach out, because they've created a sense of urgency and importance around their problems. You feel responsible for their well-being, even though they are actively preventing their own progress. Sarah experienced this with Mark. Every week, he had a new workplace crisis. Every time, Sarah invested hours helping him navigate it. But Mark never implemented any of her suggestions. He just kept coming back, and Sarah kept giving, never realizing she was being psychologically manipulated. If someone in your life constantly brings you problems but never solutions, and you find yourself emotionally exhausted after every interaction, you've identified your first energy vampire. Sign 2. The guilt manipulation matrix. The second sign is more subtle, more insidious, and frankly, more effective than the first. I call it the guilt manipulation matrix. Energy drainers are masters at making you feel guilty for having boundaries, for taking care of yourself, or for not being available to them 24/7. And they do this so skillfully that you don't even realize it's happening. Here's the pattern. You finally set a boundary. Maybe you say, "I can't talk right now, I'm with my family," or "I need some time to focus on my own projects." Their response seems understanding on the surface, but it's laced with manipulation. They might say, "Oh, no worries, I understand. I'll just figure it out on my own." but the way they say it carries weight. There's a tone of disappointment, a subtle implication that you are letting them down. Or they might use what psychologists call comparative guilt. Well, I was there for you when you needed me, but I guess that's different. This statement does something powerful to your brain. It triggers your sense of fairness, your memory of past support, and suddenly you are questioning your own legitimate need for space. The most sophisticated energy drainers use what I call preemptive guilt loading. Before you even have a chance to say no, they'll say something like, I know you are probably too busy for this, and I feel terrible even asking, but now you are in a psychological trap. If you say no, you are confirming their worst fears about being a burden. You are the bad guy in a story they've already written. Here's what makes this dark psychology technique so effective. It operates beneath your conscious awareness. You don't realize you are being manipulated. You just feel this constant, nagging sense of obligation and guilt. Think about it. Do you have someone in your life who makes you feel guilty for having your own needs? Someone who subtly punishes you with withdrawal, disappointment, or passive-aggressive comments when you don't prioritize them? That's not accident. That's not insecurity. That's calculated psychological manipulation designed to keep you accessible and compliant. Sarah experienced this with Mark constantly. Whenever she tried to establish boundaries, Mark would respond with comments like, I thought we were friends, or, I guess I was wrong about being able to count on you. These statements weren't expressions of hurt feelings. They were strategic tools to break down her boundaries and maintain his access to her energy. If you feel guilty every time you prioritize yourself over someone else, you are not in a healthy relationship. You are in a manipulation matrix. And it's time to recognize it for what it is. Sign 3. The conversation hijacking technique. Sign number 3 is something you've probably experienced but never had words for. It's called the conversation hijacking technique, and once you see it, you'll notice it everywhere. Here's how this works. You are having a conversation with this person, and you mention something about your life. Maybe you got a promotion, or you are dealing with a challenge, or you had an interesting experience. Instead of engaging with what you've said, instead of showing genuine interest in your experience, they immediately redirect the conversation back to themselves. But it's not just simple self-centeredness. It's a sophisticated technique that follows a specific pattern. First, they give a minimal acknowledgement, "Oh, that's cool," or "Wow, interesting." The acknowledgement is brief, almost dismissive, just enough to seem like they heard you. Second, they use a transition phrase that seems connective but is actually redirective. "That reminds me of when I," or "You think that's bad? Let me tell you about," or "Speaking of which, I've been meaning to tell you." Third, they launch into their own story, their own experience, their own problem. And suddenly, the conversation is entirely about them again. Your experience has been acknowledged just long enough to be used as a launching pad for their narrative. But here's the truly manipulative part. If you try to redirect back to your original topic, they seem annoyed or disinterested. They might glance at their phone, give one-word responses, or find an excuse to end the conversation. The message is clear. The conversation is valuable when it's about them, but not when it's about you. This is energy drainage in its purest form. They are extracting your attention, your listening energy, your emotional investment, but they are giving nothing back. It's a one-way transaction disguised as a mutual relationship. Psychologists call this conversational narcissism, but in the context of dark psychology, it's more than just self-centeredness. It's a deliberate strategy to maintain psychological dominance and control the flow of emotional energy. Let me give you Sarah's experience. Every time she tried to share something about her life with Mark, whether it was a success or a struggle, Mark would listen for about 30 seconds before saying something like, "That's exactly like what happened to me," and then launch into a 20-minute monologue about his situation. After a while, Sarah stopped sharing altogether. She realized that the relationship only had space for Mark's experiences, Mark's feelings, Mark's needs. Here's your test. Think about your last 5 conversations with this person. How much of those conversations were about you versus about them? If the ratio is heavily skewed toward them, if you consistently walk away feeling unheard and unseen, you are dealing with an energy vampire who's using conversation hijacking to maintain their psychological feeding ground. Real relationships involve reciprocal energy exchange. If the energy only flows in one direction, you are not in a relationship. You are in an extraction operation. Sign 4. The crisis creation pattern. Sign number 4 is where things get really dark. This is what I call a crisis creation pattern, and it's one of the most manipulative tactics in the dark psychology playbook. Energy drainers don't just respond to crises. They create them. And they create them specifically when you are starting to pull away, when you are establishing boundaries, or when you are focusing on your own life. Watch for this pattern. You've been busy with your own projects, your own life, your own goals. You haven't been as available to this person. You are starting to feel good, energized, focused. And suddenly, out of nowhere, they have an emergency. It could be a dramatic health scare that turns out to be nothing. It could be a relationship crisis that seems to appear from thin air. It could be a work catastrophe, a financial emergency, or an emotional breakdown. The specifics don't matter. What matters is the timing. This is dark psychology at its most calculated. They are engineering situations that pull you back into orbit around them. They are creating emotional urgency that demands your attention, your energy, your concern. Here's how you can distinguish between legitimate crises and manufactured ones. Real crises have consequences. Manufactured crises have drama. Real crises lead to change. Manufactured crises lead to more of the same patterns. Let me tell you what happened to Sarah. Every single time she tried to focus on her own career development, every time she started investing energy in her own goals, Mark would have a crisis. One week it was a health scare. The next week it was a potential firing. The following week it was a devastating breakup. Each crisis was real enough to trigger Sarah's concern but vague enough that it never quite led anywhere concrete. Sarah would drop everything, rushing to support Mark through his latest catastrophe. She'd spend hours on the phone, rearrange her schedule, put her own projects on hold. And then, mysteriously, the crisis would resolve or fade away, only to be replaced by a new one the moment Sarah tried to refocus on herself. This is psychological warfare disguised as neediness. The energy drainer has learned that crises are the most effective way to capture and maintain your attention. They've discovered that your empathy, your caring nature, your desire to help can be weaponized against you. The truly disturbing aspect of this pattern is that these individuals often aren't even fully conscious of what they are doing. They've learned, through trial and error, that creating urgency works. They've conditioned themselves to manufacture crisis as a way of maintaining connection and control. If you notice that emergencies seem to conveniently appear whenever you are pulling away, whenever you are establishing boundaries, whenever you are investing in yourself, you are not dealing with bad luck. You are dealing with manipulation. And it's time to see it clearly. Sign 5, the Emotional Dependency Web. And now we arrive at sign number 5, the most disturbing and the most powerful indicator that someone is draining your energy. I call it the Emotional Dependency Web, and this is where dark psychology reaches its peak sophistication. Here's what makes this different from everything else we've discussed. The energy drainer doesn't just take from you. They make you believe that you need them just as much as they need you. They create a web of false interdependency that keeps you trapped in the relationship. Listen carefully to how this works. The energy vampire positions themselves as essential to your life. They become the person you always talk to. They insert themselves into your decision-making processes. They give you advice, offer support, and create situations where you feel dependent on their presence. But here's the manipulation. Their support is actually designed to undermine your confidence and independence. Their advice often leads nowhere productive. Their presence becomes something you feel you need, even though it leaves you feeling worse, not better. Let me break down the specific tactics they use to build this web. Tactic 1, manufactured indispensability. They position themselves as uniquely qualified to understand you. Nobody else gets you like I do. Other people don't understand what you are going through. They create a narrative where they are the only person who can truly support you, effectively isolating you from other relationships. Tactic 2, strategic intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes they are incredibly supportive, attentive, and helpful. Other times they are distant, critical, or unavailable. This inconsistency creates an addiction-like dynamic where you keep coming back, hoping to get the good version of them again. This is a classic dark psychology technique borrowed from behavioral conditioning. Tactic 3, subtle confidence erosion. They undermine your self-trust in ways so subtle you don't notice. They question your decisions just enough to make you doubt yourself. Are you sure about that? I don't know, that seems risky. Maybe you should think about this more. Over time, You start relying on them to validate your choices, giving them psychological control over your decision-making. Tactic 4. The indispensability claim. They explicitly tell you how much they do for you, how much they've helped you, how lost you'd be without them. They create a narrative where you owe them, where you are dependent on them, where leaving would be a form of betrayal or abandonment. Sarah experienced the full force of this web with Mark. Over time, Mark became the person she consulted about everything. He positioned himself as her mentor, her advisor, her emotional support system. But strangely, despite all his help, Sarah's confidence declined. She second-guessed herself more. She felt less capable, not more. She had become dependent on Mark's validation while simultaneously feeling drained by his constant presence. The breakthrough came when a real friend pointed out something Sarah had missed. You've been talking to Mark about your problems for a year, and you seem more anxious and less confident than ever. What exactly is he helping you with? That question shattered the illusion. Sarah realized that Mark wasn't supporting her growth. He was feeding off her uncertainty while keeping her dependent on him for validation and guidance. Here's your test for this final sign. Does this person make you feel more capable and confident, or less? After spending time with them, do you feel energized and empowered, or do you feel more uncertain and anxious? Real support builds you up. Psychological manipulation tears you down while convincing you that you need your manipulator to survive. If someone has made themselves so central to your emotional life that you can't imagine navigating decisions without them, but you simultaneously feel worse about yourself since knowing them, you are caught in an emotional dependency web. And it's time to start cutting the threads. The psychology behind energy vampires. Now that you understand the 5 signs, let's talk about why this happens. What creates these energy vampires? Understanding the psychology behind the manipulation is crucial to protecting yourself. Energy drainers typically fall into 2 categories: conscious manipulators and unconscious pattern followers. Conscious manipulators have what psychologists call dark triad personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. These individuals deliberately use psychological manipulation to extract resources, attention, and emotional energy from others. They know what they are doing, and they do it intentionally. But more commonly, you are dealing with unconscious pattern followers. These are individuals who learned early in life that certain behaviors get them the attention, validation, and connection they crave. They discovered that creating drama brings people close. They learned that appearing helpless ensures support. They found that manipulating guilt maintains relationships. These patterns become so deeply ingrained that they operate automatically. The person isn't sitting around plotting to drain your energy. They are simply following learned behavioral patterns that happen to be psychologically manipulative. Understanding this doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does help you respond to it more effectively. Whether conscious or unconscious, the effect on you is the same: depletion, exhaustion, and psychological drain. Here's what's happening on a neurological level. When you interact with an energy vampire, your stress hormones spike. Your cortisol levels increase. Your nervous system moves into a state of hypervigilance. Over time, this chronic stress literally changes your brain chemistry, making you more anxious, less confident, and more dependent on external validation. Meanwhile, the energy drainer experiences the opposite effect. Getting your attention, concern, and emotional investment triggers their reward systems. They get a dopamine hit from your engagement. They feel more connected, more important, more alive. In essence, they are getting high off your psychological depletion. This is why these patterns are so difficult to break. You are dealing with a neurological feedback loop where your suffering literally rewards their brain. Empowering shift in tone. But here's the good news: understanding these patterns gives you power. Once you see the game, you can stop playing. Once you recognize the manipulation, you can protect yourself. And that's exactly what we are going to talk about next. Breaking free, practical strategies. So what do you do when you realize someone in your life is an energy vampire? How do you protect yourself without feeling guilty or cruel? Let me give you practical strategies that actually work. Strategy 1. The Grey Rock Method. Make yourself boring and uninteresting to the energy vampire. Give minimal responses. Don't react emotionally to their drama. Be polite but bland. Without emotional reactions to feed on, they'll eventually lose interest and move to easier targets. Strategy 2. Implement concrete boundaries. No more vague limits. Set specific, Measurable boundaries. I can talk for 15 minutes on Tuesday afternoons. I'm not available for crisis calls after 8 p.m. I need 3 days notice for any requests. Make your boundaries clear, specific, and non-negotiable. Strategy 3. Break the guilt conditioning. Every time you feel guilty for having boundaries, pause and ask yourself, is this guilt based on my actual behavior, or is it based on their manipulation? Real guilt comes from violating your own values. Manipulated guilt comes from not meeting someone else's unreasonable expectations. Strategy 4. Diversify your support system. Energy vampires thrive when they're your primary source of connection. Build relationships with multiple people. Create a support network so you are not emotionally dependent on any single individual. This makes you much less vulnerable to manipulation. Strategy 5. Track the energy exchange. For 1 week, write down every interaction with this person. Note how you felt before and after. Rate your energy levels, your mood, your confidence. The pattern will become undeniable when you see it in writing. Strategy 6. The slow fade. You don't owe anyone a dramatic confrontation. Gradually reduce your availability. Increase response times. Decrease the depth of your engagement. Over time, naturally create more distance without creating conflict. Let me tell you what Sarah did. She started by implementing the gray rock method. When Mark came to her with dramatic problems, she responded with simple acknowledgements. That sounds difficult. I'm sure you'll figure it out. No more lengthy advice sessions. No more emotional investment. She set a concrete boundary. She would respond to messages once per day, during her lunch break, for no more than 10 minutes. She stopped making herself available for crisis management. At first, Mark escalated. He tried creating bigger crises, more urgent problems. This is what psychologists call an extinction burst, a temporary increase in unwanted behavior when the usual rewards stop. But Sarah held firm. Within 3 weeks, Mark's contact decreased dramatically. He found other sources of attention and validation. Sarah's energy returned. Her confidence rebuilt. She realized how much of her life force had been drained by this one relationship. You deserve relationships that energize you, that build you up, that leave you feeling more capable and confident. You don't owe anyone access to your emotional energy, especially when they're using it to feed themselves while depleting you. So let's review what we've covered today. The 5 signs someone is secretly draining your energy. Sign 1. The emotional dumping cycle. They bring endless problems but never want real solutions. Sign 2. The guilt manipulation matrix. They make you feel bad for having boundaries or taking care of yourself. Sign 3. The conversation hijacking technique. They turn every discussion back to themselves, leaving you unheard. Sign 4. The crisis creation pattern. They manufacture emergencies whenever you try to pull away or focus on yourself. Sign 5. The emotional dependency web. They make you feel like you need them while actually undermining your confidence and independence. These aren't just annoying relationship quirks. These are sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques that drain your life force, your confidence, and your peace of mind. But here's what I want you to remember. Recognizing these patterns doesn't make you cynical or paranoid. It makes you psychologically informed. It makes you capable of protecting your most valuable resource, your energy. You have every right to guard your emotional energy like the precious resource it is. You have every right to choose who gets access to your time, attention, and concern. You have every right to walk away from relationships that drain you, even if the other person doesn't understand or approve. Your energy is your life force. Don't let anyone steal it from you. Now I want to hear from you. Have you experienced any of these 5 signs in your relationships? Which sign resonated most with you? Drop a comment below and share your story. Your experience might help someone else recognize their own energy vampire. If this video helped you see something clearly for the first time, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We are building a community of people who understand psychology, who protect their energy, and who refuse to be manipulated. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who might be caught in an energy-draining relationship, share this video with them. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is awareness. Remember, you are not responsible for other people's emotional well-being at the expense of your own. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to thrive. I'll see you in the next video, where we are going to dive even deeper into dark psychology and how to protect yourself from mental manipulation. Until then, guard your energy, trust your instincts, and never apologize for choosing yourself.